Hey everyone, today I just kind of want to see how much it costs to get into one of the big decks coming out of set 13. And if you've been looking at my Twitter, I've been memeing around, just on set release, just talking about all the prices and how much each deck might cost. But now we actually have like some results, and I'll kind of go through the results probably tomorrow or so. But we have some set 13 results. WGP singles event happened. And there were some decks that did well that came from, the Drajul, the Leonorn, Rideline, the Youthbergs, and the Jivas. So we kind of have like some deck lists to kind of compare to. And if you just want to like build one of those decks, how much does it cost from scratch? So yeah, let's kind of get started. This is just kind of for fun. First off, let's start off with Drajul and see how much it costs. So firstly here, I'm going to kind of just drag it out a bit more as we explore the different ones. You might note that I did collate data from two different shops. So one of them is from Ute. This is pretty much the price that everyone uses in Southeast Asia, because it's like it was like one of the only websites in the internet from Japan that actually sold singles that didn't look like crap, right? As a consequence, though, their prices are always slightly more expensive than others. They are kind of like the card kingdom of the internet, but they might be your only option, right? So if you want to get them, you'll find that these prices are always higher. And then I kind of compared it with Card Rush. This is kind of a lower priced place, right? You see it if you're in Akiba. One of the places you'd go to buy singles. The other one being Dragon Star. But the unique feature about them is they have a website, right? You might be going, wow, we're in 2023, right? How is having a website unique? Well, we're talking about Japan here. Not everyone has a website, and sometimes if they do, the website looks pretty bad. But yeah, no, this is the true I've kind of compared. So you'll find that Card Rush always has some stuff that is like cheaper. In terms of prices, if they posted it something like 1,280, I just rounded up to 1,300 yen, for example, because there's still like tax and all that. They don't really list, so that's just, in the end, will always be slightly more. And you'll see that here, I have the deck code here that I copied it off. So these all came from the recent Chiba singles tops. So basically, just grabbed their decks and kind of copied it, and basically listed out all the like expensive stuff, right? So it'd be like usually double R and above. I wouldn't really worry about the triggers unless they're the effect triggers, and then like the PGs and things like that. And you'll find that I also pretty much just like combine all the quantities together. These are the combined price of everything. So Noctalgia, this is the kind of generic Dark States card that was released. These were 3k each, and then people ran 4 of it. So, it's all up 12k. And you can see that, the Drajul deck pretty much costs around 64,550 yen, or like 61,450 yen from Card Rush, and that kind of equates to like $430-ish or $410. The price is probably the real price is somewhere in between, and you can just see that the big majority of the pricing came from like the Rockagore, right? 20k. And then there was also Falcratia. This is the PR, the made PR that got released. This one was around 4k, 3.5. If you look at this card, this is underlined, which means it wasn't available. This is the sold out price. And it just means that, the card is sold out in the store. It might go up like later when it comes back in stock. But you can see here, like for the blue OT, yeah, 3k, 2.5. I have to say this price is pretty correct, right? This 3k, 2.5k price was pretty correct. If you're looking for one of these, basically a lot of the staples in Akiba especially, it's going to cost you like an arm and a leg. And how would I know I did build a deck? I actually did build multiple decks. So yeah, like 4-bit for example, extremely expensive. And like the effect draws, 1.5k each. Yeah, like it's pretty crazy. PGs are pretty much cheap now because they're just all R's and they've been reprinted to oblivion. But I guess the scary part about this deck is that, Falcratia, they were only running 1 copy in this deck, right? Again, you can check the deck log, JP deck log. So if players decide to run more of this, then, this deck is going to go up in price like insane, right? This is absolutely insane. I think the Noctalgia already went up in price already. I remember on release this was only like 2k, but now everywhere is kind of selling it for a bit more, except Card Rush. Card Rush has gotten under control. But yeah, This is definitely one of the most expensive decks right now, simply because of Rocket Gold. I do want to say though, I did color code all these, right? So if you look at this, if you look at the from the top, for example, right? If you already like the new stuff is everything that is yellow, pretty much, and then everything that is orange is stuff that you should have already if you are following the deck or following the ride line. So if you look at Rocket Gore, if you play Dreduled and you do not have any Rocket Gores, then that's a you problem, right? That's kind of a you problem. Like the ones in purplish are just PRs. So yeah, it's a PR. And then the teal stuff is just kind of like staples for the nation / everything, because if you think about it, right, like blue tea, you'll probably use it for a lot of things. You know, all the effect draws and all that, all the effect triggers, that stuff is just everywhere too. So yeah, that's basically how the color coding works. Right now, the Dredule deck only has one, but you'll see some other decks later which might have more or might have none. All right, so let's kind of look at the second one. The second one is kind of a bit weird though, and I do think the value of this deck can change quite heavily. Let's just drag it across. Surprise, it is Leonorn, right? So Leonorn is only going for like 60k / like 53,250 yen. And people went, wow, that is actually pretty well priced, right? Because I thought Leonorn was definitely one of the biggest decks out there. This deck is overrated. Now, if you look at this actual deck list, though, this guy was running pretty much a Leonorn Mask deck list plus like 2 Vivaces. So that's why when you look at the Vivaces here, it's like Ute 3,600, Card Rush 28k. That's because it's only 2 copies. These things are still like relatively expensive. And then only running like 1 Alentis. The rest of it is just like pretty much a Leonorn Mask deck. But you can already see some scary parts here, right? So if you want to run a Misty Arc Habitat, that's going to cost you 6,000 yen. I think he was running 4 of them, so 1.5k each. If you want to run that Luster Dragon, they were 5k. These are basically the Rockagores of the entire deck, right? So it's just in a PR as well. So it's very, very scary. Other scary cards are the Rosarium Fairy, I think. That one is like, yeah, it's 7,200 for 4 copies. The Mask is like kind of like, you know, Mask of Hydreigon was like 2k each. But, you know, if you run a pure Vivace deck, you don't need the Mask of Hydreigon, right? And everything else is just kind of like whatever. You know, Leonorn Mask, they're just like 250 each / 150 each. Like a Leonorn itself is like 1k 600, depends where you go. But yeah, other stuff is just basically all in the effects, in the staples, right? Like PGs, okay, but the draws and effect traits, once again, very, very, cost a lot. And then, you know, the Sanctitude as well, like 3k / 2.2k, but it's out of stock. Yeah, so if you look at this, like, if you build this deck, if you had this deck already, it doesn't really cost you much to upgrade the deck, right? You just maybe 3.6k, and that's kind of it. If you were gonna build like a normal Leonorn deck and then kind of upgrade that, again, it shouldn't be that expensive because you'll have the things like Diantha and, you know, other staples. But if you wanted to get into Leonorn for real, again, getting into a nation is probably the most expensive part. About, well, one of it, I guess you can kind of break down like how it is to build a deck. First is, you know, getting the staples for the nation. That's always a big chunk. The second is just like the PRs. The PRs might be very expensive, but then like getting just like some of the old stuff can be quite hefty. Like the new stuff, if your deck is new and fresh, then sure, it might cost a lot, but always the staples are going to be a huge chunk. But let's kind of jump into a more like standard deck, right? That is not just like the Mask deck from before. So this one is actually going to be Jiva, and you'll find that Jiva is actually relatively well priced. So let's take a look at this. You know, the total cost, you know, for Jiva, 36,000 yen around that, and 32k ends up around like 245 USD or so. where is everything coming from, right? So the Strav Arena is actually 4 copies, not actually that expensive. Aparaja as well, just kind of similarly priced. The main stuff is actually the old stuff again. So Jiva, you know, 2.5k each. Actually more expensive in Card Rush. It was like 2.6k each. And then you had things like the mirrors. This was sold out, and they were going for 800 yen, but Card Rush had it for like 600. Kind of surprising, but I guess like it just really depends on the hype. And the Grail mirrors as well, both similarly priced. And then it's your Sanctitude. Drag Vader actually surprisingly very, very expensive because I guess it's a good OT, right? This deck actually did not run any effect crits at all. So I guess that's where a lot of the price disappeared from, right? Because if you look at the other effect crits, they basically vary from like 4k plus. And, you know, since this is Dragon Empire, right, the effect crits probably are worth quite a bit. But you can always see with this deck it ran 4 effect draws, so there's actually no good reason not to run effect draws unless you want to run more than 4 draws, right? It's just the defensive power is so good, but as a result, effect draws just seem to be one of the most expensive things in every single deck. This one costing around 1.5k each. But overall, like the Virina stuff is actually pretty cheap. Probably might get more expensive just depending on how much results it shows, right? And as you can see, you know, just some stuff like the mirrors was kind of sold out. But yeah, like if you again have like all the set 6 stuff for this, I think, you know, getting the new stuff is a pretty simple upgrade, right? Another just like another 10k upgrade, unlike Jeweled, which is like a 25k upgrade. But yeah, lastly, let's talk about Youthberg. I did get a lot of people asking me how much Youthberg costs. And I wanted to say that, you know, probably not as much as everything else, because for the new stuff that you need is, you don't need that much stuff. But let's kind of take a look at it, how things have changed after, like, you know, one weekend. And you can see it's actually still kind of expensive. So definitely costs more than Jiva, right, to just go fresh. It's a around 57k. So we're nearing the Leonore territories, but like let's kind of just look at the prices for now before I compare it to Leonore. So, you know, Full Blast itself is around 2k each. And then, you know, the Fagosa and Carinos are all double Rs, and these are pretty much just like 500, 400 yen. So pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. If you have a Youthberg deck, again, the upgrade for this is very simple. You know, like 12k, and you're pretty much good to go. But then, like the old stuff, though, this is again where stuff hits the fan. So Youthberg, boom, 2,500 each, same price as the Jiva, if you noticed. But then the Tempest, this guy ran 3 Tempests, and then this was like 4k each. I know, like, if you look at those 2 Youthberg decks that topped, the other one is definitely the cheaper one because he ran like 2 Tempests, and then I think 2 Gust and 1 Zest. This guy was like kind of hyper greedy, went like 3 Tempest, 1 Gust, 1 Zest. But yeah, I guess that's how you do it, right? And this one also ran Schneisel, while the other one just ran the Ride Line Returner. Schneisel around 1k each. The Sequanas are also 1k each, so this is just where a lot of the value is. And then you, again, have the staples that just cost a lot of money. But I love, like, with Jiva and the Youthberg, they don't require any PRs, so in terms of, like, trying to search for them, I guess it's okay, right? You don't have to worry about PRs, so just straight up buy the stuff, even though it could be quite expensive. Now, you might say, wow, this is very similar to the Leonore costs, but I do want to point out the Leonore deck literally just has none of the new stuff, and most of it just from the PRs, right? So if this ran more new stuff, this Leonore deck probably will become more expensive. But, you know, the full, like, if you just look at, like, everything here in terms of upgrades to your, like, if you own the stuff, and this has kind of been like a trend for a while, if you own the thing from before, they don't really kind of disappear in value, right? So staples kind of retain the same kind of value. Your ride line stuff, if you've invested money into the ride line, it's still retaining some relative value. And I guess just every time you get some support, you can just like add like another $100 or so, another 10k, and your deck is at the top again. right? Unless you're Rajul. That's like the exception. Now, in terms of like getting new people into the game though, it does cost a lot. And if you're a guy or a girl who likes to try out new stuff and go, you know, I'm done with Youthberg. I had fun playing with Youthberg, but I want to try like Drajul or Leonor and things like that, then kind of getting into those decks will be very, very hard if you don't have the staples, right? So, a bit of a mixed bag for me. If you look at it from an objective point of view, you know, set 13, although the prices are like, I guess they're, to be fair, I think they're relatively average. Because of that, you know, very easy to upgrade decks, right? It's very easy to upgrade decks, but just from buying new decks, that's pretty rough. Let me know what you guys think below, right? If any of these kind of surprised you, if you thought it was going to cost way more. I mean, some of these do cost way, like a lot of money, but again, I'm adding in the costs from previous. But again, if you don't have Rocket Gore, I don't know. I can't help you. You know, I can't help you if you don't have like things like Rocket Gore. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think below, and I'll see you all next time. All right, bye.